What's up, liberals? It's your boy DJ Deng Xiaoping here with the Rotation 12 reviews. So to kick us off, we got Hurry Up, We're Dreaming by M83, submitted by Kyle. This was really good. Actually, a lot of the albums from this rotation I really enjoyed, and this was one of them. You know, I'd obviously heard Midnight City by them, and I'd apparently heard Do It, Try It off of another album of theirs through Letterkenny, and just, like, it's great. I don't know if this is like a general consensus kind of thing, if this is the masterpiece of the genre, if this is the pinnacle of it, but I would not be surprised if it was. It was fun, it was composed well, it was produced well, it was performed well. Just, you know, I think every part of this album was exceptionally good for the genre. Synth pop still isn't my personal favorite, but I'm really not going to say anything bad about this one. I thought it was great all the way through. Midnight City was still the highlight of it for me, but like every other track on this can easily stand on its own. So, given all of that, I'm going to give this a solid 9 out of 10. Next up, we got Oil of Every Pearl's Uninsides by Sophie, submitted by Chai. And this was an album that I've heard a lot about, just never looked into. I've heard just overwhelmingly positive things about it. I know about, you know, the tragic history of this and, like, you know, what, you know, the tragedy surrounding Sophie herself. And, you know, I think that this album deserves the hype. I don't know if it's a misconception or not, but I thought this was like the progenitor album for hyperpop. And there were times where I could definitely see that, but at least to my understanding of the genre and like the hyperpop that I've consumed and that I've listened to, I don't know if this is hyperpop. You know, there were definitely times that it was, but I feel like there's got to be a better term for the genre that I'm just not aware of. Now, that being said, I really enjoyed this. Lots of the songs were absolute bangers. I liked how experimental it was. But, you know, it wasn't inaccessible, at least not most of it, I'd say. Just a really fun, really good album. Definitely unlike anything I've ever heard before. Deserves all the praise it gets. And for me, that praise is a 9 out of 10. Next up, we got Cave World by Viagra Boys. This one's for me. I love these boys, and I love their erectile dysfunction. Cave World is my favorite Viagra Boys album, but I think their other two are, you know, also incredible, definitely worth listening to. But Cave World is definitely the highest production, most cohesive, and most polished of their works to date. I love the theming of it. I love the satire. I think they're really funny. Especially like the schizophrenic rants that he goes on every album. Creepy Crawlers, definitely the best one. They're harvesting babies, man. They're taking the adrenochrome. And like even beyond that, just the other tracks off this, for me, it's just banger after banger after banger. You got Troglodyte, Punk Rock Loser, Cognitive Trade-Off Hypothesis, ADD, the song Big Boy. I remember my cat Orville, who was a very, very, you know, he was a big, big boy, and all the people in the club would go, "Don't you want him?" And so, you know, this album is so great. Such a fun listen. And, you know, the closer, Return to... Just, I love everything about this. You know, I don't really have to go into detail about every song to tell you how much I like this album. So it's getting a 9.5 out of 10. Next up, we got The Return by Kamal Williams from Brendan. And I really enjoyed this. Again, this whole rotation was really solid. And, you know, I've never exposed myself to a ton of jazz, and it's definitely never really been my favorite genre. It's, you know, but this was good. This was, at least for me, I don't know if it's the right way to say it, it was an accessible kind of jazz. I don't feel like I needed to know a lot about jazz to say, okay, this is jazz and I'm vibing with it. And I really appreciated that. You know, it's rich coming from me that I would call any music like opaque or hard to get into, but that's how I've felt about jazz for a long time, and this was really, really easy for me to get into. I really enjoyed the songs. I thought it was fun. It was lovely. It was organized well. It was sweet. I really liked this, and it's going to get an 8 out of 10 from me. I feel like I lacked the vocabulary to really go into more detail about the things I liked about it. Besides compositionally, it was good. It was performed well. Conceptually, it was executed well. There was definitely technical skill there. Just a lot of good things piled up on top of each other, coming together in a really nice way. But I wish I could be more specific about what made me really like it, but I don't know that I can be. So 8 out of 10. I liked it. Next up, we got Wet Glass by Milk Flood from Xavier. And this was a nice, short, little, I don't even know if I'd call it an album, mixtape, EP. But it was nice, short, to the point, some nice, I don't know if lo-fi is the right word for it, but instrumental hip-hop, I guess. And I really enjoyed it, Nothing stand out to me, though. Nothing blew me away. I don't have any specific remarks on it, but it was enjoyable, and I feel like probably doesn't get as, I don't know that it gets recognition. If I remember right, on Spotify, you didn't have a lot of monthly listeners, but if I knew someone who was really into lo-fi hip-hop, really enjoyed it, then this would absolutely be something I'd say, hey, this is up your alley. So for that, it's getting a 6.5 out of 10. Nothing crazy, but I can respect that. We got Stankonia I don't know, I'm going to say Stankonia by Outkast. This one's from Hunter, and, it's Outkast. Of course I know Outkast. I know what's cooler than being cool. But I was surprised by this one. I definitely, heard some of their songs, but listening to a full album, I feel like there was artistic cohesion that I wasn't expecting. It was put together really well, it flowed really well, and it was an extremely cohesive album. I think that at times it was serious, at times it was funny. It is a very playful and engaging album, and I really liked that about it. I thought that the beats were fine. I don't remember any that really stuck in my head, but I can't really complain about them either. I don't think there was anything egregious going on with it. But the lyrics or bars, I still don't know the proper word for it in rap, that's what really stuck with me. The delivery of them, they were constantly clever. Just they didn't miss a beat getting a pun or a joke in there. And I really liked that, and I really appreciated it. So, as, I don't want to say hesitant, but as ignorant as I am towards rap as a genre, I thought that this was a good one, and it's going to get a 7 out of 10. We got In the Aeroplane Over the Sea by Neutral Milk Hotel from Dom, and I was waiting for this one. I knew somebody put it in there, and I didn't remember who, but, we can't talk about music in a somewhat pretentious way without mentioning In the Aeroplane Over the Sea. Truly nothing else like this. I love you, Jesus Christ. And this is the point where I don't know what to say about it. It's so unique. It's so fun. The lyrics are mind-bending and also weirdly horny, but not in an off-putting way. Honestly, anything that I say about this album will be less eloquent than any given review that anyone else has already done on it. I love this album. I think it deserves the praise it gets. I do think it's a little overrated. I think it's a little too obsessed about, and I think it's talked about a little too much, especially in traditional 4chan, Mew, that kind of stuff scenes. But I think it's definitely worthy of praise and a very, very interesting listen, if nothing else. So, respect, 8.5 out of 10. On deck, we got I Care Because You Do by Aphex Twin, submitted by Nick. And we finally got some Aphex Twin, folks. I know we've been waiting for the Aphex Twin. He's a master of his craft. He knows what he's doing, and he does it well. every time. This, however, was an album I hadn't listened to before. I've listened to the Richard D. James album. I've listened to both Selected Ambient Works. This, I don't know, this might be the only Aphex Twin album I hadn't listened to prior. But, you know, it lives up to its expectations. I know that this was a really well-regarded Aphex Twin album, and I can see why. He's doing what he does, and he's doing it well. You know, I'd heard Alberto Balsam before this, you know, womp, 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 beep, boop. That was unnecessary. Moving on. It's really good. I like IDM, even though I know that, you know, Chai has informed me that has some problematic roots to it, but it's a genre I enjoy. And Aphex Twin, he does it great. So I care because you do. I don't know if I can realistically give Aphex Twin anything lower than this. It's an 8.5 out of 10. Only reason is I prefer Selected Ambient Works, I prefer Drux, I prefer Richard D. James, but it's still really good. Same kind of rule that Boards of Canada has, where it's always going to reach a certain level of quality, and you know that's high quality. You're comparing apples to apples at that point. They're all good. It's just about personal preference. So 8.5 out of 10. I care because you do. Next up, we got Mixtape by Bobbing from a miscellaneous submission. And, you know, another sweet, short, nice collection of songs. I really didn't know what I was expecting going into it, but I enjoyed it, you know. I thought the songs were nice, fun. You know, I actually, for once, appreciated how short the songs were. They were just little bites of different ideas coming together. And, you know, while I wouldn't say that the album was cohesive because of that, you know, I think that it kept a tonal level throughout the whole thing, didn't deviate too much from it, so it did feel like a pretty complete project. I liked, you know, and just the little interjections he has where he's just speaking, I thought those were nice. I thought they were fun and clever. I appreciated those. And while I don't know if much else stuck with me about it, I thought it was worthwhile. I thought it was fun. I enjoyed it. So 7.5 out of 10. Next up, we got If You Check the Dying Sound by Uchu Konbini from Evan. And I don't know if it's a typo or if they meant dying in terms of like ink. Either way, Evan, if you know, let me know. I'll fix it. I really liked this. I was going into this thinking, okay, more Japanese shoegaze. You know, I'm either going to like it or I'm going to be like, eh. And that's, you know, that's going to be it. That's going to be fine. My microphone's been in the shot this whole time. Damn. I'm not re-recording this. It was Midwest emo. It was math rock. I love that. I love both of those genres. And Uchu Konbini, they did it really well. Honestly, the only thing that this album suffers from, and it's not their fault, it's mine, is when you have, I think, those two genres, they can really benefit from having lyrics with them. And I do not speak Japanese. So I think that knowing the lyrics or having known the lyrics, this probably would have gotten a higher score than I ended up giving it. But as it stands, I really enjoyed it. You know, technically impressive, compositionally impressive. The performances were good. I really liked this one. So 8 out of 10. Great job. Last but not least, we got 2001 by Dr. Dre, submitted by Jude. And again, we're getting into a territory where I don't have a ton of vocabulary for it. But I do know Dr. Dre, pretty famous. Obviously heard some songs like Still Dre or Still DRE, I don't know. And The Next Episode, both things I've heard. And if there was one thing I knew about Dr. Dre, it's that his claim to fame was his production, was his beats. And I can see that there. The beats were impressive. They were really nice, fun, well laid out, not too complex, but not too simple. Correct me if I'm wrong, this is just what I know about Dre, but if that is his reputation, is for making those kinds of beats, he deserves it. I thought that part of the album was immaculate. Now, here we're getting into, like, I guess, gangster rap. I don't know if that's an appropriate term or not, but that's what I'm going to call it. And I do have some disinterest in it. You know, I think on one hand, it's unrelatable, at least to me. I'm sure there are plenty of people out there who can relate to that, but I can't. And this might be a Gatsby kind of situation where it feels cliched at this point. It may have been revolutionary at its time, may have been groundbreaking and appreciated, but where it's at right now and the stereotypes that I have of mainstream rap, it just felt cliched, impersonal, braggadocious, and that's fine. It's just not what I personally care for. But with all of that said, I really respect the beats, I really respect the production, and I think that it has easily earned a 7 out of 10. Bonus, I did listen to one extra album in all of this. Actually, no, two. Let me do this one at a time. I listened to the debut album from Folly Group, who are a British post-punk band. I really enjoyed their EP, Awake and Hungry, and so I was really happy to hear that they released their first full-length album. And it was really good. I think it was better than Awake and Hungry, It's definitely post-punk, but, where a lot of the British post-punk revival focuses on being experimental or really energetic, this one, there's a bit of ominousness to it. There's darkness and brooding in it. And, that doesn't mean that the delivery is flat or monotone. It's still a very fun and energetic delivery and very interesting. But the whole album just had a shadow over it that I really liked. I really appreciated it. And so because of that, I think that I don't want to say my expectations were low. I was just kind of hoping I would get something more similar to Awake and Hungry, and I did get that. And it was more refined, more polished. So everything I could have hoped for, and it's getting an 8 out of 10. And lastly, got a special little review for our special boy, Jude. I did listen to your single on Spotify, Funny Guy, and it was good. I'm glad that you guys had the opportunity to record in a studio, and I think that while that kind of energetic punk isn't the type of music I typically listen to, this stood on its own. I thought this was really well done. I enjoyed the lyrics, I enjoyed the performance of it, and, I didn't think it was too short or too long. I just think it was a nice single, really good, and, I'm proud of you. You guys are doing great work, and I'm excited to go to your show and hear what you guys are ready to put out next. That's DJ Ding Xiaoping. Bye.